Hello everyone and welcome to InsureTalk number 50 this month. We're a little bit earlier this month because we've got a lovely long weekend coming up. So we thought we'd get you when you're still here before you go on your holidays. Now it's a special milestone for InsureTalk, and I was thinking about what I want to share with the audience today, and the thing that came to mind is InsureTalk is only successful because we have such engaged and an audience of engaged individuals who can come back every single month, month after month. This month we have more than 4,000 people registered for this conference. And here at InsureTalk, we are very proud of what we've achieved, but we are nothing without all of you signing in. So I thought I'll dedicate episode number 50 to the audience. And today I especially want to ask you to be active on the chat. So share with us your thoughts. We love reading all of it. And if you have questions, this is very important. Don't put it in the chat. Go to the Q&A. Otherwise, it gets lost and no one's going to answer you. Especially questions for our speakers. We have very specific questions. They will come to the Q&A after their session and respond to you. So let me share with you what we have in store today. So our theme is redefining insurance, innovation, inclusion, and the future of risk management. So very much an insurance themed episode we have for you today. Now we like to start off with a really interesting speaker, and today is no exception because we have Steve van Rooritz. Now Steve is the chairman of Leopard and Associates. He's very much involved in many industry bodies. You'll often hear him speak on the various platforms. He's going to talk on the topic of how does PI fit into broker risk management. PI is something that almost all of us, professional indemnity, that almost all of us either have as businesses, sell to our clients, and it's complicated. So a topical issue for us today. So we normally ask our speakers to give us a little bit of a bio. And some are very long, I must admit, some of them are 2-3 pages long. But Mr. van Rooritz said in his bio, years and years and years of liability insurance of all sorts. So Steve, on that wonderful bio, I hand over to you for our first insert of the day.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Christelle, and good morning, everyone. I am concerned that, I'm going to put my video on, I'm concerned that talking once again online about PI could become a bit of a rinse repeat. I'm trying to put my video on, there we go. I've been asked to put my video on, but it's
Steve,
not
it goes on and off, so maybe just check there. It's on now. Thank you so much.
There we go. I think it's on now. Let me start that again. Good morning, everyone. I was just concerned that talking once again online about PI would become a bit of a rinse repeat. So today, I want to do things a little bit differently. I want to make you do the work. And that means that if you want your CBD points, you've got to participate. We've got AI and all sorts of things watching you. So therefore, if you go off and have a cup of coffee, you're at risk. You're risking your CBD points. What I'm going to be doing today is displaying a number of polls. You'll have about 30 seconds to respond to each poll. They're relatively simple. Now, I've provided answers to these polls, and I ask you to answer as truthfully as possible. Now, that may sound a bit strange, but if Americans can talk about alternative truths, I can talk about truthfully as possible. And actually what I mean by that is some of the questions may not exactly fit what you would like to say, but I ask you please to select the closest. If you can't find an answer, select the closest that you would accept. So with that, I ask for the first poll, please. So why do you buy PI cover? And while you answer that as a first poll and you're getting into it, yesterday I was given a quote which I think fits perfectly with what I'm trying to do today. And the quote is, experience is a hard, hard teacher because she gives the test first and then the lesson afterwards. Now, I'm hoping that today, some of the lessons will be provided to you before you are tested with a PI claim. That's interesting. So I'm very, very happy that there's a tiny little amount that says regulatory requirement. I think if you buy PI cover on that basis, I think you need your head examined. Am I allowed to say that? I'm not sure. Anyway, because it's important for protecting your customer. It's important, and I'm very pleased to see the 92% saying it's important because it protects my business. PI is the connection. It is the connection between the survival in your business and in the event of a claim. But it's a lot more than that. It's about protecting your reputation. It's more than just paying liability claims. It's your reputation. And here's a slight little bit of a punt. Leopard holding your hand when there is a crisis. Let's move on to the second one, please. So how much cover do you buy? And when you answer this, think about why you're buying it and how much cover you buy. Is it too expensive? Is it less expensive? And this one is about, I suppose, when you think about the regulator says there must be a minimum of 1 million and 5 million, depending on certain circumstances. I think their view is really to do with trying to protect the customer. And honestly, these values don't help at all. 1 million or 5 million just doesn't help. It's bluntly pointless. And it's certainly pointless if you're going to buy that kind of level of cover for your own business. I use a consistent metric to decide my PI limit. I'm pleased to see that. As little as possible. Guys, I don't know who answered that, but really you've got to review what you think. You're going to be in the place where you're going to find the test is coming before the lesson. I don't like the idea that it's simply gut instinct to decide an appropriate limit. It's more than that. These days, first of all, I would argue that you should buy a minimum of 10 million rand, no matter how small your business may be. You need to consider things like the size of your business. You need to consider things like the profile of your customer. You need to think things about what is the worst scenario. Even in a personal lines policy, you could have 20, 30, 40 million rand on a liability claim. I would also advocate that when you do buy PI cover, you need to get external and expert brokers, PI brokers, that can talk to you and understand and give you some guidance. Now, yes, they won't be able to give you, here is the limit you should buy, but they'll be able to offer guidance. That's the problem. If they can't, by the way, give you guidance, find a specialist PI broker. May I go to the third slide, please? So as this one comes up, you'll see a switch. From here on in, I'm going to be highlighting a number of really basic risk management items, each of which impact on your exposure to liability and in turn, obviously, your PI. So the first one is taking on a new customer. What is your process? This is to me the core of where we have to start, and right here is where things start going awry. When there is a gap in detail, and we've found this in claims, when there's a gap in detail, especially understanding of what the customer needs are about, you create a gap, and right there's a PI exposure looming. To me, it's nice to see that 93% are saying you perform full risk management face-to-face before providing any advice or approaching the market. Now, I've got to tell you, the PI claims we're seeing, that response does not necessarily accord with what we're seeing. Now, if we move to the next poll, it'll add to this. Now, I'm concerned here about what you do once you've done the take on of the new customer. How do you respond? How do you provide that advice component? And how do you record it? It's really important here. These last two polls are legal requirements, by the way. You have to do this. This is what phase calls for. And often, when a claim comes along, what happens is that the PI, this is the evidence of what you have done. It does not, if you don't have a needs analysis or you don't have a record of advice, those two things don't as such create a liability. They don't. But it is hugely important to have this evidence in play. So those where you talk about a one-pager, an addition, you made the customer sign it, that's not really adequate. You really got to get to the point where every single time there's a proper record of advice. And I encourage you to look at phase, because a record of advice is not a simple thing. It's a collection of all the component parts of what you've discussed with the customer and recording that properly. And we go on to the next slide, please. So when providing advisory and intermediary services to your customer, how do you formalize the agreement? Llewellyn, thank you very much for changing the American spelling of formalizing to S, which is very nice. Thank you very much. Now, what happens when you do this? If I get one message over today, and it's going to be interesting to see what the response is here. If I just get one message over today, is to make sure that you do have a proper terms of engagement with your customer. It is here often that a broker finds itself pulled into other things that the customer is looking for. When that thing goes wrong, when something goes wrong, the gap between what you think you are doing for the customer and what their expectation is, there is a massive difference. And that difference can't always be made up through your relationship with the customer. It's critical that when you have an engagement with a customer, that it's set out really well. It is in this space that you start limiting your liability. You are only going to be doing these things. And I would encourage you to go one step further, saying, we are not going to be doing other things. We haven't got the response up on this particular slide yet. Okay, so it's starting to spread around a little bit now. Guys, verbally, emails, WhatsApps, absolutely not acceptable. We can't do that anymore. The terms of engagement, I see the 27% or a third of you are saying you have terms of engagement that sets out clearly the service you're going to provide and arrange. I think you need to go one step further. That transparency is required in terms of your remuneration. Now, days of old, and I was a broker, there was always a little concern about, am I going to declare my 20% commission or my fee, or can I have something? I prefer not to say it. I think these days in the professional outfit, you should be very happy to declare the fact you've got 20% commission or 15% commission, or whatever your fee is. And just I remind everybody that there are some regulatory requirements relating to this declaration, especially around the issues of where you get binder fees and things. That should also be declared. And I think all of those components should be set in a proper terms of engagement. The next one's a fairly simple one. It's a long-winded one. The next poll, please. I'm not sure too many people. Oh, no. Sorry, it looks like I may have lost you.
Steve, we can see you.
Oh, you can see me. I'll carry on. I can't see anything from my side. My screen's gone blank, but I'll carry on. Thank you, Llewellyn. When assessing taking on a new customer, what do you do about that customer? Do you just take it on and hope for the best? Or are you rating the customer? And the answer, yes or no, is quite a simple one. I'm very happy to see that you're actually saying yes to most of it. Most of you are saying yes. Whoa, my computer. I'm sorry, guys, my computer is messing with me here. And it's flashing at me. So I'm just going to carry on until you tell me Llewellyn is a bigger problem.
Thanks, Steve. Your video went off, but we can still hear you, so you can continue.
Okay, thank you. The rating it, I would suggest rating from A to B to C to D, the worst risk being F or something. And that's about the complexity of the customer. That's about making sure you don't do things that you're not capable of doing. And there requires a lot of honesty on the part of the broker, that sometimes you're taking on stuff that you really are not able to handle or you haven't got experience with. Now, from my point of view, that does mean that what you should really do is ensure that if you haven't got the experience, work with somebody else and gain that experience. May I move to the next slide, please? Well, and I'm not sure the slide's up. I hope it is.
Yes, it's up. Thanks, Steve.
I'm sorry about this, everybody, but I'm just proceeding in good faith because my screen is flashing at me. So the next question is about technical ability and the 3 points to be answered. I can't see the responses, so I'm just going to carry on responding. So after the appropriate time, Llewellyn, just put the response
Steve, you
up.
can just look at your phone. I'm sending you the results there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is now getting more complicated. Okay, so this one, everybody has really gone and said, we insure. That's the yes or no. Thank you, Llewellyn. I've got the next question. Yeah, so this is about skills and your employer duty to make sure that skills do transfer to your staff. This is about your business reputation and the skill set that you need to be able to do what you must do. For me, it's a duty that you have to share the knowledge that you have and empower those down the line. Now move to the next slide, please. This question is about the reality of doing business because compliance is a bit of a pain. And I'm really interested to see what responses there are to this one. Llewellyn, would you mind sending this to me as well on my WhatsApp so I can see it? And in answering this question, I know that regulation can be overwhelming and seems to be way over the top sometimes. I personally get exhausted when I go into compliance and this kind of meeting. It's exhausting for me. I find it really hard. However, at its core, compliance is really about really good business, how to do business properly. And the first answer there, let me just have a quick look at it. The first answer is saying, I think it is something we have to do and ensure that all the boxes are ticked. Well, it's not really. That shouldn't be the purpose. It is a real drag on the business, just adds cost. I see somebody's answered that, which I really would take issue with. But the fact that everybody or a lot of people think that it is part of, and you make it part of your culture and part of your governance and processes, that's really good. This is a space where you find PI claims do start occurring, and we have issues when compliance and a claim comes along and compliance is lacking. And the next slide, please. I'm sensitive about time. I don't think I'm going to complete all the questions, but I'll carry on until the end. So this is about technology. And despite, people do die, do retire, and they disappear off sometimes, they become incapacitated. We have found an issue when it comes to PI claims where succession planning is lacking. And what succession planning really is about is who's going to be dealing with that customer in the longer term. What skills have they got? So, and PI claims emanate because there's been a lack of succession planning. People get to the point, they've been running their business for years, they know the customers exceptionally well, but then something happens. And the people that follow up and the risk to the business becomes enormous. It starts to fail. May I move to the next slide, please? The phase requires honesty and integrity. I'm going to assume it's up. Now, here is an interesting one because honesty, integrity, and whether or not there's been compulsory ethics training, I start doubting whether or not everyone complies with this requirement. First of all, phase does talk about honesty and integrity. This is part, and it should be part of your business culture. Just waiting for the response because I can't see it. Thank you. I see the questions up, but I don't see any answers yet. Hopefully it comes up just now. Where, ethics, it's one of my pet topics. And to me, it is at the root of a business. The culture of a business is all about ethics and how you treat your customer. TCF is in the background. It's if the customer is faced with an unfair practice, and we see this in PI claims, that there's advantage taken and somebody does something that is not really attuned to what the customer requires, or there's been a bit of dishonesty, this is very destructive. And I see a lot of people answer that it's every year. And I wonder whether that should have followed that question up with asking whether it is done internally, you have external people doing it, or you send people to particular ethics training. Never had such training. Whoever answered those questions, make sure if you are running a business that is corrected. This has to start happening. Then I think we'll now move to the last question because I'm running out of time. Technology is extraordinary enabler. And I want to link this to the issues of data. This is the final poll, right? Wow, my computer's gone completely nuts. Llewellyn, can you still hear me?
Yes, Steve, I can.
Okay.
We have the one for fraudsters are extremely clever crooks. That one was your last.
That'll be the last one today. Fraudsters be extremely clever, and this is an area that we're seeing many claims. It is related, obviously, to the use of AI. It's the impersonation issues. It's the, I highlight this as an issue. We are paying many claims where money has disappeared off in the wrong direction. Now, sometimes, there are arguments to say that if you're an idiot and you accept something online, telephonically and email without verification, you shouldn't be covered. Currently, we do cover this and we double deductibles. But I have a sense that this is getting to the point where it's so out of hand and people are not checking things properly that coverage is soon going to be removed entirely. Coverage through PI policies, commercial crime policies, and fidelity guarantee policies do deal with it differently. Some cover it entirely, some say only a portion of the loss or the increased deductibles. The second message that I'd have today is that in today's world, this impersonation has become rife. AI is going to make it even worse. You'll hear my voice. You'll hear you'll see my face. It'll be exactly me. And we need to pay great attention to anything that says, I want to change bank details. I want to change my email address. I want to change my cell phone number. All of these elements start becoming and coalescing to one massive exposure to all of you. And with that, I think I've run out of time now, so I will end with that. Thank you so much.
The first session, I really wasn't exaggerating. But you are just a wonderful and interesting individual altogether. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Lombard for supporting InsureTalk in many different ways, and not in the least by providing wonderful speakers to keep us informed and educated. So on to our next speaker. We have a lovely mix of gender on the show today, which always makes me very happy. So we have next up Bernice Games. She's going to talk to us. She's the marketing lead for South Africa on ULife. And she's going to talk to us about From Legacy to Leading Edge, Transforming Insurance for the Modern World. Very much a theme that we've seen on most of our episodes in recent months. Just to give you a short overview of who Christine is. Head of Marketing for ULife South Africa with over 15 years of experience in the financial services industry. Bernice has become a recognized figure in the realm of marketing. Her journey has been marked by a fervent commitment to making a real difference, evident in her impactful roles with renowned brands such as Budget, Auto & General, Dial Direct, and Discovery. So a wonderful legacy there. She's a multifaceted individual with a dynamic approach to both her personal and professional endeavors. Bernice continues to be an inspiring force in marketing, leaving an indelible mark on every venture she undertakes. Bernice, on that note, please tell us more about Legacy to Leading Edge.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Give me a second. Just getting it up here quickly. Right. So I'm Bernice Games, Head of Marketing from ULife, and today I'm going to be chatting to you from legacy to leading edge, transforming insurance for the modern world. And I'm sure that's something that's on everyone's minds at the moment. So once upon a time, life was very functional. When you wanted to experience the magic of Disney, you would have to go to Disney World. You would have to go to a festival in order to get that fun and magic and experience from Disney. Once upon a time, when you had to operate onto something digital, there was only a desktop computer with a hard drive. It was the only way that we could access anything via the internet. And back in the day, if you wanted to run, it was as simple as just putting a pair of closed shoes on your feet so not to hurt them. There was nothing more to life than this functional of what was around us. And then came many, many brands, 3 very incredible brands. We've got Disney, Apple, and Nike. Disney found a way to entertain, inform, and inspire people all around the world through storytelling. And now we can enjoy that from our own homes. I mean, of course, it would be lovely for us to all go to Disneyland, but they've managed to really capture the heart of many people across the globe through some of their retail outlets and especially on this big screen. Apple, as we know, is a very revolutionary and innovative brand. and they bring the best user experience to their customers through their innovative hardware. And now we can connect with people digitally from all over the world through many means of platform and don't have to be sitting at a desktop computer. And then we get Nike. Nike is not just, a brand that provides athletic gear and shoes. It's about the feeling that it gives you and the experience it creates. And when you put on an item of Nike, their mission statement is the feeling of an athlete to everybody. So as soon as you put that gear on, you feel like you can conquer the world and you can achieve whatever you put your mind to. So really what we're saying is that we're in a world of transcendent utility, where it's more than just a functional need. Meanwhile, we're sitting with an insurance industry that is over 200 years old. Companies are worth $35 trillion plus. And we know that there is a lot of wealth and money within the insurance industry, but it largely is not fit for the future. So when you think of insurance company, and I guess this is more applicable to those that sit outside of insurance and on the consumer side, is, you go back to these big archaic buildings with their generic insurance company logo. And what comes to mind is realms of files and papers and drawers, people running around, very manual processes. And at the end of the day, you've just got that piece of paper, and the end consumer only really thinks of insurance at the point of claim. And when they get their documentation, they either save it in a drive or they just put it into a drawer. So how do we learn from industries who have transcended from utility into something really magical? How do we do this with insurance? When you see that policy, it generally means that something has gone wrong. So how do we transform this very functional element of insurance into something engaging and motivating, and something that's, at the point of life and not at the point of claim? So one day, there were very many clever people who sat in a room and thought, how do we make people not pull out that policy, not claim as much, and keep them healthier? The bottom line for every company is really key. So they thought, well, let's get people to walk more. That's preventative well-being. There's lots of studies that show that if you walk just 2,000 to 4,000 steps a day, it can really reduce the age of mortality, because, studies show that the more active you are, you tend to suffer less with chronic illnesses, you're generally more healthy, and you live longer lives. And this is fantastic because this really did transform the industry, and we did see a lot of positive behavior coming out of this in terms of physical activity, which is great. But we all know that preventative well-being and proactive measures is more than just the physical side of things. It is so interconnected. And if you think about yourself, everything weighs in on something else. Your mental health affects your physical health. Your emotional health is affected by your financial health. And how do we look at all these points of someone in terms of who they are as a human individual to really get a better idea of what preventative well-being is and taking proactive measures to create a healthier society? And we need to start looking at the bigger picture. But how do we do that? We're in a world at the moment, and we have for quite a while now, people don't like being told what to do. They've got far more access to information. The world lines are now completely blurred because you can operate from anywhere. People are more educated. There's so many more options out there. It's not just about getting insurance or getting something retail from the shop down the street. Now you can do anything online. So they are in the power seat. They don't want to be told what to do. The other challenge that we have is that people will either purchase when they need it or when they want it. And right now, neither of those is working in South Africa with insurance. We are one of the most underinsured countries in the world, and it's a grudge purchase. So how do we get our consumer to realize that they either need it or they want it or both? The unspoken challenge here with insurance particularly is purpose, trust, and ultimately desire. Let's be honest, no one desires to wake up in the morning and look at their insurance policy. And how do we change that narrative? So how do we overcome this? We all know that data is the new oil. And there are many companies that are sitting on data. But data cannot be the new oil if it is not being utilized efficiently. And how do we do that with data? Over 90% of the world's data has been created in just last years, which is an unbelievable stat. But the insurance industry, and at large many other industries, still struggles with leveraging it effectively. So how do we use data? There's real-time risk monitoring. There's early health outcome identification, which gives us outputs and predictions. We need to understand more to change behavior. This picture here gives you an understanding of someone's overall well-being. There are so many facets to a person because there are such complex individuals. We are as human beings, and behavior is hard to change. I mean, there's a stat that says that if you want to change your behavior, at most you can change about 20%. So how are we looking at all these different data points to understand more about our consumers to really shift that needle? And however, understanding your company data is not enough. What we need to do is look at it against the population data, because your company data is a small percentage of what is sitting out there in terms of the scope of propensity to consume in the broader market. And then looking at, this is my company data, this is my population data, where are the gaps? Then what we need to do is take market research validation and understand that if I know what X is, how will it change Y? And if we benchmark to understand that all, we can crack the code. And that can lead to real measures like real-time risk outputs, things like claim costs and loss ratios. We can start looking at rankings and scores. And then, as an example, some health outcome predictions. We can, there's a lot of things that have come out with health outcome predictions on diabetes, cancer diagnosis, mental health disorder, MSK conditions. And if we utilize data effectively and understand the complex nature of human beings, we'll be in a much better position from an insurance perspective to better look at outputs and predictions and to manage risk and ultimately improve the bottom line of companies. Next is engagement. I think the reason that this is so important is because it's one thing to analyze your data and really understand these outputs, but if you cannot get engagement from your consumers and the wider audience, you are not going to find that purpose, trust, desire, and move the needle. So, and think of your company, the last time that you enacted the purpose of your business, and think about your competitor. What would you say about them, and what is their purpose statement, and what have they done differently to engage their audience to get to that point? Right, so how do we engage people? Number one, understanding your audience, and that's what I've spoken to with data. And obviously there's lots to work with here. Behavior change through personalized interventions and pathways to meaningful care. I think it's important to note that when we're looking at the percentage of the population that is generally engaged with insurance, you're looking at between 1 and perhaps at the highest amount, 20%. So we're preaching to the choir here. How do we tap into that 80% of those people that haven't managed to change their behavior, that haven't been able to get personalized interventions, and we haven't managed to create pathways to meaningful care? They help the bulk of the population who don't even know where to start when it comes to tackling their mental well-being or their financial well-being. We need to meet people where they are at in this moment. A perfect example of this is don't tell the average pregnant woman to run a 10-kilometer to be healthier. She is not in that stage of her life to become healthier, and that is an unrealistic expectation for most pregnant ladies. Another example is don't tell the average 60-year-old male who might be suffering with musculoskeletal disorders to hop on a bike for an hour, or to perhaps meditate if they're a little bit more traditional. Their mental well-being needs are all different. And how do we tap into those needs to connect with our consumers? Engagement here is key. And ultimately, once we get all of those right, we can add value. And what does that mean? It means that for people, businesses, and society, we can create a population, the employees, and healthier businesses. It's a win-win for everybody. Right, AI. Let's be honest, everyone is talking about AI, and I think most of you on this call have probably used ChatGPT or have tried to ChatGPT. It's amazing. But how are we as insurers and people who work in the financial insurance space using it so that we can ensure insurance is fit for the future? Traditional versus preventive AI. As it stands, the insurance industry is using AI as a way to understand the past in order to predict the future. At ULife, we disagree. We are using AI to understand the present in order to change the future. Because what is the use of prediction without active change? And I want you all to think about that for a moment. And if you are using any sort of digital tools, AI and data, what are you using that predictive modeling for in order to instruct change within your environment? And this is just an example of how traditional underwriting features with AI and what more you can get out of it. And I think there's so many facets to insurance that if we can start looking at these elements throughout the various aspects of our business, we can really shift the needle. There was a very interesting study, and I would encourage you guys to have a look at it, that Swiss Re did in 2023. And what they basically did is they looked at a whole lot of insurance industries across the globe, predominantly focusing on the Americas, Asia, and Europe. And they started looking at when they bring in digitization and automation of standard tasks and collecting and analyzing data, the impact that it had on their businesses. And this was overwhelming for me because overall on claims, they saw a loss ratio reduction of 8 to 3% on claims. And when they looked at the potential savings across the different areas of their business, so in marketing and distribution, pricing and underwriting and administration, there were massive cost savings there. And this is all through companies who had decided to utilize digitization, data, AI, and analyzation in the right ways. So what are the benefits of preventative AI? We at ULife have been able to launch preventative AI into the insurance market, and this is what we have found. We are able to help people win more on price. And that means that we've started to get enhanced retention through locked-in price. We can budget to contain future costs. We've got better sales targeting on a healthy book. We have increased margins, and we have preferential rates for our good risk business. So we win more on price. We've started looking at our loss ratios, and we pay out less because we've reduced our loss ratios. We've reduced our book volatility. We've had claims containment through preventative measures. We've avoided renewing bad risk because, they say all business is good business, not necessarily with insurance, because if you're losing a lot, you're not making money. And we've reduced the reduction of payout per claim. The other way in which ULife is able to win is our customer-centric ability on best delivery, and this is through our engagement and behavior change. We have enhanced our customer experience. We've intervened before a claim. We've improved the quality of care through personalizing meaningful pathways, and we've accelerated awareness of cases. And all these three together have been done with preventative AI and has had a profound positive impact on the business. So what is the competitive edge after all of this? And I'm just touching on the surface, obviously, because there's not a lot of time, but there's so much more to come into this. If we have to look at data, if we have to look at AI, if we have to look at engagement and preventative well-being, data can give us behavioral insights that can give us unique data on each individual, which then ultimately can increase loyalty through value-driven approach and purpose to reduce customer churn. We can increase profit margin through increased conversion, through cross-sell and upsell to users, and ultimately creating a healthier population with lower loss ratios on insurance. And there's obviously so much more that we can do as an industry, but as a food for thought, this is what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you for listening. Please follow us on our different channels if you'd like to find out more. I'd be happy to take more questions, but if we're out of time, I'm also happy to answer them on the chat.
Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insights. It was really fascinating to hear more about your world, and we hope to see you soon. Now, every month we have a regular insert, and it is from the Insurance Institute of South Africa, the IISA. If you are in the insurance industry, it is very important that you realize that you need to sign up for your professional membership of the Insurance Institute of South Africa. You have access to amazing resources by being a member of the IISA, and on top of that, it adds real credibility to your professional profile if you can say that you are a licentiate, associate, fellow of the Insurance Institute of South Africa. Ever since I became a professional member, I feel that my title has so much more substance. And I encourage you to go to the IISA website to go and register there and find out how it all works. Now, I'm going to hand over to Thokozile. We know Madam CEO of the IISA, Ma'am Mashlangu, and I'm sure she's going to give us some updates on the upcoming insurance conference, the African Insurance Exchange at Sun City, which we're all very much looking forward to. So Thokozile, we look forward to your insert.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In today's session, I want to kick off by thanking all IISA members that took the time to complete the survey that we sent out towards the end of last year. The feedback you have provided to us enables us to remain relevant to you and to make sure that we continuously review and update the value proposition and that the service offering is what you would like to experience. In April, we're going to be hosting a member feedback session where we'll be sharing the outcome of the survey and also looking at comparative results of prior years and also mapping the way forward, ensuring that we address the outcomes of the survey and we take the key outcomes and making sure that we embed them into the business and remaining relevant to your needs. So do keep a lookout for the meeting invites that will be sent in the next few days, and do make sure that you join us. Whether you're a member or a non-member, we would really like you to join us. And if you're a member, we would also be doing some on-spot surveys during the session where we give you feedback. If you're not a member, we hope that we can convert you to become a member during that session. One of the key focus areas of the Institute is social impact. And as you know, we introduced a youth accelerator program, a work readiness program that we designed as IISA in 2023. As I shared last month, we were working towards a graduation. We had the graduation, and that was a huge success. And a big congratulations to all the young people that graduated from that program, and a big thank you to the employers that took the time to absorb some of these young people. Cohort 2 is underway, as I shared at the last session, and we are really looking forward for hosts to give the young people practical experience, workplace experience. So do get in touch with the office if you have the opportunity or have capacity to be able to take these young people and give them practical experience. And a big thank you to our sponsors that enabled us to make these programs available. Sastra was one of the sponsors of the current cohort, and ABSA Insurance contributed towards the first cohort. So we are really making a difference in the young people's lives, and we want to partner with all industry players in taking this program forward. As we get to end of Q1, scary as it is that we are now at the end of almost at the end of Q1, and it is also getting to the end of the CPD cycle. I know I sound like a parrot by now. At this time of the year, all I talk about is CPD compliance. So all members, I urge you to make sure that you update your CPD records with us. Every single activity that you have done that is CPD accredited or can be considered for CPD, please make sure that it is updated on your profile so that your records can be updated. Or if you just want to check how far you are, log into your profile on the membership portal and check your compliance status there. There are many programs that you can do to make sure that you remain compliant. And as I've said last month, the InsureTalk is one of the CPD accredited programs. Professional reading is another. Academic qualifications, completion of modules is another. If you're delivering presentations, we also accredit that, and that we accredit the preparation time as well. So do make sure that your CPD is in order. The team is sending reminders on a weekly basis as well as monthly basis. So please make sure that your CPD remains compliant. We continuously host the member activations, and a big thank you to the corporate partners and employers that have taken the time to invite us to their offices and to conduct the activation there. This enables us not only to make you aware of the relevance of becoming a member, but also to share with you the service offering and what we do at IISA. One of the things that came out from the survey, which I will unpack next month when we have the member survey, is the need to enhance the value proposition. So we took time and we looked at our value proposition. We really utilized the model of a unique selling point, and we did a deep dive onto the service offering, and we've enhanced it, and we are busy delivering the enhanced value proposition. We presented it to various forums of the IISA, which is the membership management, the forum of fellows, the CPD committee, and the editorial committee, and members gave us input on the reviewed value proposition, and we are busy implementing that, as I said, and we want to continue to make sure that it remains relevant to you. So we'll give more details on that, and our key focus, if I can just share one thing that I would like you to remember of the value proposition, is that IISA is focused on differentiating itself to ensure that you know and understand what our role is in the industry as a professional body. In closing, we continuously host webinars weekly, which run pretty much about 3 times a week, and we really want to make sure that your knowledge remains relevant, you remain up to date on what is happening locally and internationally, and we also share thought leadership content on the membership portal. So please take the time to read those articles that we share or the research papers that we share, and empower your knowledge and make sure that you remain relevant. We also want to invite members who would like to be profiled, which was one of the key outcomes of the member survey, which we incorporated into the RISE value proposition. If you're a member of IISA and you'd like to be profiled on our social media platforms, or basically on all our communication platforms, we invite you to get in touch with the office, and we'll definitely profile you and make sure that we elevate your standing in the industry as an accredited insurance professional. I cannot close without inviting you to join us for the conference taking place in July, and join us as a delegate, exhibitor, sponsor. Please reach out to the office on communications@isa.co.za. And with that, thank you until next time. Remember, if you're not a member, you always have an opportunity to become an accredited professional and set yourself apart from the rest. Thank you. AIE 2024, the 50th conference we have been celebrating. Thanks to everyone who took the time to join us as we celebrated this jubilee. Registration for AIE 2025 is already open, and with this year having set a tone of what we did, we look forward to crafting another unforgettable experience that you will have. So take the time to register. 27th to 30th July 2025. We will be back here at Sun City celebrating yet again AIE 2025. See you there.
Thank you, Thokozile. We really appreciate you joining us here every single month and all the work that you do to further professionalism in our industry. On to our next regular insert. As you know, we have Rianette Whitehead from FA News. She gives us a general media update every month. She is not only a mother of grown boys, but the co-owner and editor of FA News, and she is the brainchild behind The Insurance Apprentice. I know there's a lot of things happening there at the moment. And Rianette, every month, she gives us a media update on what's happening in the industry. And it's always so well researched and really, really thoughtfully put together. So Rianette, I'm really happy to have you here again today. And please share with us what's happening in the industry.
Welcome to InsureTalk 2025, the first one for the year. A new year, fresh start, and let's be honest, the insurance industry never sits still. We're stepping into a year filled with challenges, but also massive opportunities. And in a country like ours, where resilience is practically in our DNA, I'd argue that opportunities often outweigh challenges if we look at them in the right way. Now, let's not sugarcoat it. It's 2025. There's an interesting start to the year with Donald Trump and all the tweets and speeches and everything that is going on. There are real concerns on the table. Let's not forget that. The economic pressure on businesses and on the individuals is intense. Underwriting profitability remains a tightrope walk, and regulatory challenges continue to demand adaptation. It's a constant process. Load shedding might have eased up, but infrastructure risk, climate change-driven disasters, and the cyber threat landscape are only growing. And then there's trust, our industry's biggest currency. Are we doing enough to earn and maintain it? And I think that's a big theme for me for this year. But here's the exciting part. The industry is built on problem solving, a shift towards risk prevention rather than just
Hey, my name is Ngosenati Kwela. I'm a musician who works with Southern African indigenous knowledge systems. I work with music that focuses on the cultural and ritual archives of the continent, and they all focus on the healing and therapeutic medicine that we find in the power of vibrations. I just want to say I'm really happy to be with you guys at InsureTalk, and I just want to play some beautiful sounds for you. The first offering that I'd like to jam is Yeke Nkosi Yeke Nkosi Hlalutya mntanawo mquba Yeke Nkosi Tam ta tam ta Tam ta tam ta Yeke Nkosi Nayigqibe wafela ubuzwe Nayigqibe wafela ubuzwe Tamta 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 Yeah, we give thanks, we give thanks. Tamta. The next offering I'd like to share with you guys is Naitribe. It's a beautiful story that one of my grandfathers told me about, where one of our ancestors, Okhasmeni, had passed away on one of the wars that were happening on the continent, amongst the frontier wars that happened in the Eastern Cape. And it's just to remember that ancestor and that grandfather. Lamthethelela Dlozi lami kaGasmini wafelele ubuzwe wakhangela wayethanda inzala yakhe ebukhosini emathafeni izizwe zalwela umhlaba wethu zalwela umhlaba wethu kulandaba kaNcaichibi Gasmini wathutyolwa ngamabhulu ufelele ubuzwe khumbula Just want to thank you all for having me here today. My name is InsureTalk50, as I said. In the suffering is I just want to let you know where you can find my music if you would like to meditate with some of these offerings. You can find us on Apple Music, Spotify as InsureTalk50. You can also find us on Instagram as Mdana Wekwele and Indigenous Frequency Cast. Please check us out on YouTube as well, and on TikTok, just for all things related to sound, art, music, that all wants to uplift the consciousness of the people. Just want to give thanks to InsureTalk one last time for having us here so we can share this beautiful relic, the Kamalangoni, with you. Thank you so much.
Okay, and for once, I am actually going to talk to you a little bit about something that I know and that I'm very passionate about. So let me introduce myself. I'm Christelle Coleman. I'm the CEO and founder, together with my unbelievable team of AMI underwriting managers. We're part of the Lombard group, so that's why I was very excited to see Steve here earlier today. And we did something that is different and interesting, and I thought I wanted to share with our audience about what AMI did, because many of the people attending the conference here today are small and medium-sized enterprises, entrepreneurs, brokers. Brokers are entrepreneurs, and we managed to do a few things that really changed the way we thought we would do business. So my topic today is no desks, no borders, what fully remote companies get right. And what triggered this was, apart from the fact that I'm going to talk to you about what we're actually doing at AMI, was a billboard that I saw being advertised online from Spotify, and it said, we don't employ children, we will continue to be a fully remote business. And it really, really resonated with me. So I went to do a bit of research on the topic, and I'm going to give you a different angle on an article that's going to be in the FA News by Zaida Mia, our COO, very shortly. More practical experience on how we did it or how we are doing it at AMI. So the CEO of Spotify said, you can spend a lot of time hiring grown-ups and then you treat them like children. And it really, for me, if I just think about being a mother and having children, I always told my children that if I want them to respect me, I have to respect them, even when they were very, very young. So my children are wonderful and they have a deep understanding of respect. And I feel the same applies to business and your people that work for you. You have to trust your staff. I know it's not possible for everyone. So I know there's a lot of corporates out there. I know there's 1,010 reasons why people have to go back to the office. And I'm not for 1 minute saying that's bad. I am just giving you a different view of what can work if you are a smaller business and considering the remote work model. So in the case of Spotify, it wasn't about convenience for them. It was about recognizing that professionals perform better when given responsibility and given them flexibility. Now, this is a very important point because especially in the personal lines insurance part of the industry, we have a lot of women working there, and women are, by just the history that we've been through, responsible to keep the house running well, to get the kids to school, to do the homework, to do all those things. And if you can put 3 hours a day back into the life of a mother, it is worth more than the salary that she's earning. Sometimes it's something that people don't appreciate and understand. And the mothers that we have working in our business and the women are very aware of that. So it's something to keep in mind as we progress along this talk. So many companies have made remote work a permanent part of their operations, not as an experiment, but as a long-term strategy. And these are big corporates that have done this. Some of the most successful businesses today are proving that an office is not a requirement for high performance. So I have a few points that I want to share with you today. what made it work for us at AMI. The very first point is creating a virtual office that feels real. So I'm not talking about remote work or a virtual work or whatever. I am talking about virtual reality office. And how do we do that? Often people who are leading businesses and who own businesses, they say they struggle with the concept of remote work, often cite a lack of oversight. Fortunately, there's companies like Spotify out there that have shown that trust and clear expectations create better results than micromanagement will ever get you. Employees are evaluated based on their contributions and not time spent online. Shifting from a time-based mindset, with other words 8 to 5, to a results-driven approach allows professionals to work efficiently without unnecessary check-ins. Now, this is the model of Spotify. What we did at AMI is we said, we're a startup, and in my previous startups, there were 2 main expense items, salaries and accommodation offices. It's expensive. If you don't have money coming in, to go and rent an office and to keep it running and make sure that it works, it's a big expense item. So we decided to go the full virtual office reality route from day one. But what we did was, and this was the brain spark of Zayda Mia, who looks after all our operations executive level at AMI. She said, let's create a virtual reality office environment. So at AMI, every day from 8 to 5, all our staff have to be in the office with the cameras on. So we set up a Teams call that runs every day. Everyone comes into the office. I don't care if you didn't do your hair the night before, if you don't have makeup on. It doesn't matter. You sit in the office with your camera on. You can switch your sound off if you don't want to hear the chattering that goes on. And through doing that, we created a real office environment where people are sharing stories about their lives. We get to meet kids because when they come home in the afternoon, they come and say hello as if they come into the office. We have breakaway rooms for meetings as if you're going into a private room in a physical office environment. And I have never, ever experienced the cohesion that we have in our team. I'm also in the office, not the whole day, all day, because I go out to see clients or brokers. But our team get to know each other like we have never seen in a normal open space office environment, because you are there on the screen. And like, to quote Zayda, she says, our model is built on trust. We don't monitor how long someone sits at their desk. We focus on outcomes. If you hire the right people and set clear expectations, they will deliver. And it really is. The result is if you're not at your desk, your chair is empty because you have to keep your camera on. So it's as it is, where is, John? No, he's just gone to fetch the kids, or he's just gone to a doctor's appointment or whatever. It's exactly the same principle as being in a physical office. So just a few points. What worked for us, we created a structured virtual office environment. We have clear goals, 8 to 5, camera on, and that sort of thing. And we have a very clear outcome model for measurable outcomes for all our staff and for all the different roles. And that gives us a seamless digital workspace. We focus on performance at AMI, and we have measurable outcomes instead of just hours work. We do find that most of our staff tend to work longer hours, and that is also not healthy, so we manage them very specifically. We don't have a lot of meetings, and when we do have online meetings, they tend to be a lot shorter than in-person meetings. And this allows our employees to manage their workflow while maintaining structured collaboration. And the most important point is we assess new recruits for their ability and their excitement to work fully remote and virtual. We provide them with a dedicated virtual desk space, so we give them laptop, 2 screens, backup UPS power. They need to have Wi-Fi and all the tools that they need to succeed. And something really important, if you have young children, when you work for AMI, you're not allowed to have them at the house. They have to still go to aftercare. So you need to create an office workspace in your home as if you're at an office. And then that gets shared digitally. And it's worked really, really well for us. We have unreal low absenteeism. Because often what happens is someone's got a stomach bug and they say, I'm just going to work for a couple of hours and then I'm going to go and lie down. Great. Now, if you had to go to an office, you wouldn't go, because it would be very inconvenient to get into the traffic with that, apart from the saving of time. And then the last point I wanted to touch with you, almost the last point, is it's very important to remember that remote work doesn't necessarily mean isolation. The virtual office environment or the virtual reality office environment really only succeeds when employees remain engaged, cameras on, sound on. The other case study that I looked at, it's a company called Deal. They invest regular in-person gatherings while other companies create informal digital spaces where colleagues can interact, and then virtual coffee chats and mentoring programs and all those things. At AMI, we do a lot of in-person stuff. We go and run the Sanlam 10K as part of the marathon together. We do lots of fun things. We get together in Cape Town when we're in Joburg, and we have staff. In fact, we have staff Cape Town, George, Durban, Pretoria and Joburg. And then once a year, we all come together in Cape Town and we spend 3-4 days together, and we really we just have fun. We don't have a work conference, we just have fun. And it works very, very well. But it's very important to keep those regular check-ins with your the people that report to you, to make sure that you have private time with people, not in the virtual office space. So yeah, I want to bring it closer to home a little bit and just talk, in closing, about the success of AMI. So what does it mean for us? We've built a team of people that are fully engaged, that are extremely grateful for the opportunity to be able to work in their own space. There's something really nice about it. I love people, I'm a people's person, but I love working from my own desk. And not because I can sit in my pajamas. It's just that I feel like I can get more done. And I know you hear this, those employers out there, people say they can get more done at home. It's the truth. You do get more done because you don't have constant interruptions. One of the other amazing benefits of this remote work model, the full remote work model, is that we don't have office politics. Because where does office politics start? It starts with the smoking outside, with the guys talking about something, or in the tea room or whatever. We don't have that. We also don't have smoke breaks because people can smoke at their desks, which is wonderful. So, we've built a culture where engagement remains really, really high, despite not having a physical office space. Cameras stay on, collaboration is strong, and the team operates as if we were all in the same room. So it's important to make sure that you have a system, that you don't just go into this. You might ask me the question, how much does it cost? It costs the hardware that you have to supply to your staff. You need to have proper Wi-Fi at your place of work, at home, so that you're not interrupted with backup UPS. You don't need to have an inverter or anything like that. UPS can last you 3-4 hours. And you need to have a quiet space to work. Those are the requirements that we have. Teams doesn't cost a cent. So you have your virtual space at no cost. We use various digital tools to measure productivity without being Big Brother. And if you want to know about that, you're welcome to contact me. You just Google my name and you'll find me, or just go to the AMI website, and I'll share with you the tools that we have been using very successfully to make sure that everyone stays on track. And you might think, why do you want to know what's going on? Why should you know exactly how busy I am? Well, first of all, we're a numbers business, and we need to keep our service levels as high as possible. And we need to make sure that everyone pulls in the same direction at the same pace. Some people really tend to work too long hours, and my team knows who they are, and we don't condone that. And then secondly, if someone is not 100% in the best of space, whether it is mental health or physical health, when you're on a screen, it gets picked up very, very quickly. And if we see, oh, wow, this person normally does 10 quotes a day, now they only got 2 out, it gives you that immediate opportunity to check in with that person and say, what is wrong? And every single time when that has happened, there was an issue that they weren't sharing with us in the general team space. But going to that person privately and say, something's not up, something's not right, something's up with you. So that's why we do keep track of our productivity. And then, of course, we can report back to our superiors on exactly how productive we are. It's amazing to plan your workforce to make sure you have the right number of people to get through your work. I do want to say though, and I'm now talking to the people that are interested, not the big office building organizations who want their staff to come back to the office. I do recognize that a remote model does require adaptation. It isn't just about where people work, but how they work together. And we've had a number of false starts at AMI, staff who joined us who just couldn't get with the program. They weren't serious about it. They were taking chances. They didn't like not being perhaps with people in an office space. And those incidents we addressed constructively. So when you interview, and if you do decide to go virtual, I'm really happy to have a one-on-one call with you about this, because I do think it's a great solution for a lot of businesses that are under pressure from an economic perspective, costs and all of that. It's a really great solution to look at. It is, it's very important when you do your interview process to ask someone straight out, do you think you can do this? Because we need the right kind of person to work in a virtual environment, which I'm telling you is 8 out of 10 of us. Most people like to work remotely in a structured environment. So what's the future with, is there a future without offices? The move towards full remote businesses is gaining traction. And I just want to qualify my statement, because it's really, really important for you to hear this. I don't believe in the hybrid model. I believe in the full remote or full on-site model, because I believe a team should be together from 8 to 5. It's really, really important to understand that distinction. So when I talk to you today, it really is from a completely remote perspective. We do have physical office space. We have places where we can meet up in person with our brokers. I belong to the Cape Town Club. I have a lot of meetings there. We have desks at the Lombard offices. So if it happens that someone has got a complete issue with Wi-Fi, or their children are sick and they can't work at home, you can go to a physical office. So we have a hot desk set up, and there's a number of these WeWork and Workshop 17 solutions all around the country that you can have as a backup plan. But I'm talking to you from a fully virtual perspective right now. Companies that commit to this model with intention, by fostering trust, so believing your staff when they tell you what they're doing, investing in digital infrastructure, and prioritizing in-person engagement and digital engagement. I mentioned to you earlier that I'm in the virtual office often. I just pop in and out the whole time, so they don't know when I'm going to come in. We have once a week, a staff meeting with everyone online, where every staff member gets an opportunity to open the meeting to share a piece of wisdom. It's very important that leadership are in the office as well. You can't expect your staff to sit there and you don't have the leadership in the office, because that's where everything is happening, as if you're in a physical office. Setting the business the standard for companies that commit to this model with intention are setting the standard for what the modern workplace can be. Businesses in South Africa and beyond all need to consider how these lessons apply to their own operations. The office, once considered essential, is now optional, and for some unnecessary. So on that note, I wish to thank you for listening to my story. And if you want to reach out to me, you can find me online.
What's shaping our industry right now? Thank you once again for the opportunity. It is always a pleasure to be here. Every day, FA News receives a flood of press releases, news updates, and insights from across the insurance space, giving us a clear picture of the topics that are dominating conversations. Today, I want to take you through some of the key themes that have been coming through and that we have picked up. I know this is painful, but we do get quite a lot of content around the COFI bill. It is most certainly on everyone's radar. For those who need a reminder, of which I don't think there are many on this forum, COFI is set to replace several existing laws, including FACE, and will demand more transparency, better disclosures, and a stronger focus on customer outcomes. Brokers and insurers need to get ahead of this now, because once implemented, the compliance burden will be significant. Treating customers fairly remains a hot topic, especially from a regulatory and ombudsman perspective. A large portion of complaints still stems from policyholders feeling they weren't treated fairly and didn't fully understand their cover. It is a wake-up call for all of us. Fairness can't be a principle. It has to be woven into the way we operate. The Ombudsman has flagged motor and homeowners insurance continue to generate the most complaints. Most disputes arise because of misinformation. Clients don't fully understand what's covered, leading to a frustration when claims are rejected. This reinforces the need for clear, upfront communication and ensuring that clients know exactly what they are paying for. Non-compliance with policy conditions, whether it's a security requirement on a vehicle or misrepresentation of usage, has been a major cause of claim rejections. These are avoidable disputes if brokers and advisors take a proactive role in making sure clients understand their policy obligations. This isn't just about customer service. It's about reducing friction in the claims process and protecting industry trust. Regulators have been paying close attention to how brokers and insurers structure their fees. Additional admin charges and service fees that aren't clearly explained could become a major compliance risk. Now is the time to ensure that fee structures are fully transparent and justified, because the scrutiny on this is going to increase. We've seen it globally and locally. Climate-related disasters are happening more frequently and with greater severity. The industry is grappling with how to price the risk effectively, with insurers re-evaluating catastrophe models and risk pools. There's no easy fix, but ignoring climate risk is no longer an option. I have conversations with a lot of insurers, obviously, and even with the most unexpected ones, the focus on climate is huge. And I think a big part of that, never mind the fact that how do we price the risk, is the conversations that we have with clients. Because I think often a client feels, what difference am I going to make as one person? And that's exactly what the bigger conversation needs to happen. It needs to be about. Telematics, AI underwriting, and digital claims processing are transforming our space. Customers now expect faster, smarter service, and insurers who don't embrace tech risks are losing relevance. The challenge? Balancing innovation with security, compliance, and data protection. The global reinsurance market is tightening, pushing up premiums and reducing capacity. Insurers are having to readjust their risk appetites and pricing strategies in response. For brokers and advisors, this means managing client expectations and finding creative solutions to maintain cover. More insurers are moving into niche markets, pet insurance, gig economy cover, and rental insurance, to name but a few. These products reflect how customer needs are changing and how insurers are evolving to meet them. The takeaway? Specialization is becoming a strong competitive advantage. Before I wrap up, I want to touch on 3 industry bodies shaping some of these discussions. Firstly, the FIA continues to advocate for intermediaries with a big focus on professional development and the future of advice. SAIA, on the other hand, has been very vocal about improving risk management strategies, particularly around climate resilience and fraud prevention. On the IISA front, there's a big drive on membership and trying to professionalize the industry more. And of course, planning around the AIE conference, which is a massive highlight on the insurance calendar. This year, we as FA News are planning to give you a lot more updates. We'll be chatting to people attending, and we'll share some of the not so serious stuff too. Maybe I'll show you how not to drive on the golf course. And I think people who have played golf with me are nodding slowly their heads. For those who do not play golf, I see that there's an opportunity to be on the paddle course. It really is a great way, either golf or paddle, to start the conference. So if you are attending, do consider doing one of these. And if you haven't decided yet, hopefully this might entice you to make that final decision. In closing, the themes I've covered today aren't just industry trends. They are our reality that we're navigating all the time right now. From regulatory shifts to technological disruptions and climate-driven risk, the insurance landscape is evolving rapidly. Our role as brokers, advisors, and insurers is to stay informed, adapt, and ensure that we're always adding value to our clients in a fast-changing world. And we are working in a super exciting industry. You cannot deny that. If you are not subscribed to FA News, the newsletters, strongly consider doing that. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Us is, of course, FA News and the Insurance Apprentice. Next month, holding thumbs, will be the big review on the Insurance Apprentice, on which channel we will appear, the date of our first episode, and all that nitty-gritty. Also, for those who haven't looked and listened to our vodcasts on TIA Talks, we're on Spotify and YouTube. Please go and listen and follow. There are some really cool conversations happening there. It is hosted by one of my previous contestants, Jason, who is Jason Meisen, who is a broker himself. It really makes for some cool listening about our industry and the things happening. I think that's it from me. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your session, stay safe, and be blessed.
So let me just tell you a little bit more about Darius. His career in financial services began in tailoring financial solutions for internationally mobile clientele through trust and fiduciary services. That's a great way to start your career in insurance. Most of us started loading claims or writing out, like I did, checks at Santam. This built a strong foundation in business development, portfolio management, and strategic financial solutions. He's moved on to short-term insurance over his career, and then Darius made the bold decision to launch Weingart Brokers in 2021 and laid the foundation for a brokerage built on integrity, efficiency, and trust. And those are the cornerstones of a good brokerage. So very nice to read that. He is the founding member of the Lekker Network, with the goal to keep South Africa's people as its best export connected and networking, as well as Bastion ALR, a consulting firm focused on advisory, legal, and risk-related matters. He entered to win the Insurance Apprentice in 2025, so we don't know if he's made it, but we wish you all of the best, Darius, and we look forward to your talk on your topic of ennobling the insurance industry.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Christelle. I'm very excited to be here. Wonderful to be making use of this platform to spread a bit of awareness, to work with like-minded individuals, and hopefully assist others to learn a bit more as we progress through this wonderful industry and institutions of ours. So moving on, I've got a little bit of a presentation set up for ourselves. I'm going to take us on a bit of a history trip on insurance, a little bit about myself, and then we're going to talk and progress towards ennobling insurance in particular. So without further ado, let me get these slides up and open. There we are. So I am the MD of Wyngaard Brokers, very, very proud insurance brokerage. We do a lot of risk-related engagements and work, but in particular with fleet-based businesses. About us, we're, as mentioned, founded on the tenets of integrity, efficiency, and trust. We want to provide tailored financial solutions that guide clients towards prosperity, drive them there, in fact, and give them surety against various types of risks. As a brokerage at the forefront of risk management and short-term insurance, our expertise obviously lie in asset insurance in particular. So, guess who had a burning desire to be the best short-term insurance broker in the world when he grew up? Not this guy. As I had progressed, things are very interesting, and I actually wanted to be a bit of a politician myself, but it turns out it's not the game for myself. I had done quite well and got a degree in international relations and did pretty well with regards to doing some international work and winning United Nations debating competitions locally at the national level. But I found myself thoroughly enjoying, as I had progressed, insurance. So a little bit about the history of insurance, just to remind those that have forgotten and educate those who don't yet know. The earliest known insurance contract dates back to 1347 in Genoa, Italy. And this was covering maritime trade risks. There was a bit of trouble with the church at that time, and in particular, the movement of importing and exporting goods. There was a little bit of violence at seas and pirating, and this came to the fore, where the insurer then had said, at the time, the insurer, that they will compensate the ship owner if the ship was lost specifically, and the insurer underwrote a percentage of the venture in exchange for a premium. Not at all as sophisticated as we have it today. The contracts and the costs were negotiated through haggling, and the earliest known life insurance policy was made in Royal Exchange, London in 1583. So short-term insurance precedes long-term insurance, funny enough. As we progress, oops, a little bit forward there we go. The first asset policy, or the fire policy, had come from the burning of a bakery that destroyed over 13,000 houses and 87 churches in Guildhall, in London. And I think the insurers still haven't gotten over that, because they still don't like bakeries or anything hot. It made 100,000 people homeless, and it burned for almost 5 days. Unlike our modern claims processes, the rebuilding of the city took about 50 years. And many blame the fire on foreigners, especially Catholics, the French, and the Dutch. This is the information I found independently online. Officially, 6 people died in the fire, but as you think about these and the progression of where insurance has come from, it's quite hard to believe that some people went without a home entirely after this, with nowhere to go, and in fact have died on the streets as a result of this catastrophe that had occurred. As insurance kept progressing, the first insurance market had come about. The first record, however, of insurance as a system was in Babylon, where the guys would pay a bit of money as lump sums to help fund voyages across the ocean, the Mediterranean Sea. And the first insurance association, if you like, came from Lloyd's Coffee House, which is now known as Lloyd's of London, which is where traders and ship owners came together. An interesting fact here is that the bankers would physically at that time write their names and put information under the ships on huge backboards, which were wall to wall in this coffee shop, which showed information about it. And this is actually where the wording or the name underwriting came from, where they would write under this ship what was happening, the cargo, the crew, the weather, the destination, amongst other things. Interesting one there. Now, as we progress, insurance and its role in society today, a very interesting one and a conversation worth having, I think. It's very much an invisible safety net. If we think about trapeze, we don't always see it while the act is being performed, but should something go wrong, that's the first thing we're hoping that will kick in and assist. More so, think about how slowly those acts would take to develop and perform, and the enjoyment and the growth that would take place, how slowly that growth would take place if we didn't have the breaking bones otherwise. And this is very much like what insurance is and has progressed to over time. It is what allows businesses, economies, individuals to take risks, to innovate, to grow without the fear of total loss, without the fear of significant financial disruption to their lives where they may lead to ruin. And without a strong and trusted insurance industry, we would struggle to recover from just about any losses from an insurance perspective, any type of physical, tangible losses which we could insure. Think about how slow and difficult and arduous that process of building a business would be. Truly would be a case of some of the luckiest of us progressing and being successful in business. Because imagine if you had lost your car, and perhaps you were a person who works, and as a consequence of you not being able to replace it or get a rental vehicle, you would lose your job. Or what if a taxi had an incident and your boss said, well, because this taxi has had an incident and nobody is going to replace it on this route, you're unfortunately fired. Insurance has come a very long way. From an insurance in the economy and business stability perspective, on the insurance front from South Africa, we have 140 billion rands worth of contribution to the annual GDP, which supports individuals, small businesses, and large corporations. Insurances allows business to expand confidently while using a risk financing technique to protect their assets while they grow. It helps them mitigate risks which they couldn't afford to do so, which they may not be able to do by themselves, where the contributions of the many helps to cover the few who have difficult circumstances and situations where calamity befalls them. Businesses and individuals, ultimately, that are underinsured or uninsured are the ones that struggle, that should have the unforeseen happen, they would not be able to navigate it by themselves. And this is why it's so important that we consider what happens when the unforeseen happens. What do we do? Have we got the right cover and advice? From an insurance timeline on the African front, our market has recently been valued at about $92 billion in 2024. And it's expected to grow immensely by 2023 to almost $161 billion. Some of these mentions of what was driving this growth is the population. Many people are working and we're moving from a more youthful to a working class of individuals. The education is increasing as well. So the awareness of insurance products and benefit is being made better known. And collaboration. There's a lot of collaboration taking place between different institutions and different finance houses. There's a lot more integration and shared value coming through to the fore. If we look at South Africa's market, this is the forecast currently, or in 2022, moving from about 50 billion to about 100 billion in 2029. From the market share, we're looking at about a split of 60-40 from a life and non-life perspective. And I'd love to show you this little video. It leads me to what I've really been enjoying about the talks that we've seen today, which is that there's so much emphasis on trust and how it is that we are working together, how it is that we are able to, if we get the trust game right, trusting our employees, trusting our insurers, trusting having the currency that we use as trust to mitigate risk, to help make decisions, we find ourselves in a better place than we were yesterday. So please enjoy this short clip from Simon Sinek. I quite enjoy him as he is a self-proclaimed eternal optimist, and it talks a little bit about trust and in some of the most or the highest performing teams on the world, being it the US Marines.
plus I just think this is really interesting. So I've worked with the Navy SEALs, and I asked them, like, how do you pick like the guys that go on SEAL Team 6, right? Because they're the best of the best, the best, the best. And they drew a graph for me, and on one side they wrote the word performance, and on the other side they wrote the word trust. The way they define the terms is performance on the battlefield and performance off the battlefield. So this is your skills. This is, did you make your quarterly earnings, whatever, however you want to translate it, right? Performance, it's traditional. This is, how are you off the battlefield? What kind of person are you? The way they put it is, I may trust you with my life, but do I trust you with my money and my wife? They're SEALs. This is what they told me. Nobody wants this person, the low performer of low trust, of course. Of course, everybody wants this person, the high performer of high trust. Of course. What they learned is that this person, the high performer of low trust, is a toxic leader and a toxic team member. And they would rather have a medium performer of high trust, sometimes even a low performer of high trust, it's a relative scale, over this person. This is the highest performing organization on the planet, and this person is more important than this person. And the problem in business is we have lopsided metrics. We have 1,000,001 metrics to measure someone's performance and negligible to no metrics to measure someone's trustworthiness. And so what we end up doing is promoting or bonusing toxicity in our businesses, which is bad for the long game because it eventually destroys the whole organization. The irony is it's unbelievably easy to find these people. Go to any team and say, who's the asshole? And they'll... They will all point to the same person. Equally, if you go to any team and say, who do you trust more than anybody else? Who's always got your back? And when the chips are down, they will be there with you. They will also all point to the same person. It's the best gifted natural leader who's creating an environment for everybody else to succeed, and they may not be your most individual highest performer. But that person, you better keep them on your team.
I hope you enjoyed that. This is particularly true in business, and I've thoroughly enjoyed listening and reading his book. I must say, a big shout out to Janelle Kettle, who got me the Start With Why book. Do invest in a little bit of those conversations that take place in the book. It's well worth exploring with people that you value and people whose opinions you think are worth something. I'm going to go on with the presentation and just bring this a little bit closer to the ennobling conversation. So, as we progress, if we think about how trust has deteriorated over time, particularly in insurance, and I'm just going to briefly touch on this, my little recent history of insurance and its distribution. So forgive me because it's a very limited and subjective viewpoint, but you may enjoy it. Back in the day, individuals would sell insurance door to door, walking. They would post insurance policies. I can't believe I was still around to have seen that option available, that somebody would like to receive their policy in the post. Individuals would find out about the endorsements or what the premium would look like a month, two after the endorsement had taken place, amongst other things. But the trust was high. The trust was very high. And the trust in the institutions was high as well, for the individuals who were part of the distribution network and the individuals who were involved in those businesses, because ultimately we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have the modern conveniences that we've had today, and the trust over time seems to have slowly eroded, and we see the entering of the direct insurance market here, where the problem was that any Tom, Dick, and Harry could become a broker or a makelaar. And, you know, if they didn't succeed in taking over the father's car business or the mother's bakery or shop, they would end up in this position of saying, well, I'm going to become a broker. That's what I'm going to do. And slowly but surely, the direct market became quite a bit more efficient. What we saw happening, or what at least I saw happening, was entering of attention grabbing, and with the likes of Doris and Mavis and Dave, amongst other advertising or advertisement campaigns, to get attention to these direct insurers, and they did well for a long time and still do. But we lost a bit of trust in the insurance market because it no longer was about referring people that you knew that worked in the area that was doing your mom's policy and your uncle's policy. It was about speaking to people who were a little further off. And we saw the direct market take a very large chunk of the insurance premium total gathered. Year after, oh, very interesting, Cheryl. Good luck with the posting there. Year after, we're in a situation where the market is much more balanced and clients get to choose. Our job, however, is to help them and chaperone them as they progress. We see this, and here's a couple of memes that I drew off of the internet last night, that even now, there's still a lot of education missing and a lot of changes in the way that people think, or they have different perceptions to what we know insurance to be. I mean, if we read through a couple of these, will you cover my medical bills? Insurance companies. Well, yes, but actually, no. We all know about what had happened now on the US healthcare insurance side over the last bit. But the truth of the matter is this is a relatively well-educated population that's already selling at about 7% of the total GDP is being gained from the insurance and in sophisticated countries as per the stats. And we're still a bit behind on that. However, there's still a lack of education there. And this is where we can contribute and get very involved. When we look at the challenges that we see in particular in this insurance industry of ours that are holding the industry back, we still hear about the lack of trust and the misunderstandings of individuals who still view insurance as very much a grudge purchase instead of as a safety net, this beautiful invisible safety net. I mean, I can't think to myself that I would buy that begrudgingly if I were a tightrope walker. But underinsurance and incorrect coverage also plays a very large part. Many South African businesses, if they are covered, are severely underinsured. I see this on a daily basis. When we sit and speak to clients and go to their premises and say, but you know what, Mr. Client, I think we've got a bit more than what I see on the policy here. Can we go on a walkthrough? And when we do it, we find out that they're wildly underinsured. And this is where we have difficulty when it comes to claims in particular. And then there's complexity and compliance burdens. With changes, we've seen it with solar, power surges, load shedding. The changes to these things aren't often well articulated to clients, and then they suffer because they didn't understand the policy requirements correctly. And they don't have the proper application of what the insurers had expected from them, and they lose out. And the rise of direct insurance models, where direct insurers provide accessibility, they often lack the personalized element and the risk management portion that businesses need, in particular, as well as personalized clients. So what are we going to do? How do we ennoble our industry? Ennobling ultimately means to make more noble, to make it more honorable. And some of the points here is a mixed mash of experience, of online digital data, of a little bit of AI-informed decision-making, looking at complaints, looking at specific portions of the market, looking at insurance in particular. And this is an order in no particular order, but these are some things that we can look at to build trust through education. Because the more clients understand how and why insurance work, the more they'll value its role, whether it's life, business, personal, or assets. Tailored risk management. The industry should move beyond just the policy, just saying, listen, here's your policy, this is what it covers, and good luck. We often see that in business where the policy was sold, the individual never comes back to check in, even though they should, and the client is prejudiced as a result. Offering risk assessments, talking about prevention strategies of risk, looking at ongoing business support, because ultimately, if we are the individuals who act in the industry that is the safety net for them, we need to be consistently look at where they're walking, what are they doing anything unbecoming, are there things that are happening that would require us to change our models? How can we help them make better decisions? Technology and data-driven solutions, I think this was spoken about quite a bit today, but we can definitely keep using these and they will keep developing at the rate that we haven't seen before. I think it was mentioned that 80% of all of our data and information was generated in the last years. That's unbelievable. But also remembering that we are humans and we thrive with personal connection. So I love so much what Christelle was mentioning, that even though they aren't in an office together physically, they are in an office together, at very least in some way tangibly, and are connected. And another thing that we can do as individuals in particular that work in the insurance industry is don't hesitate to educate. Talk to people around you. I know it leaves the question mark on your back, and you might be the big bad insurance individual when you disagree, but speaking to people and helping them answer their questions will help us to ennoble this industry. When you've got a lot of prophets talking about the same message, we'll end up getting the message far and wide and more people converting. What about the broker in the space? Brokers in particular act as Sherpas in a complex landscape, and we navigate, and I speak from experience, complex loads that the clients have to carry, whether it's administrative or claims-based or risk mitigation or strategic. We carry a lot, and we want to help the clients through our expertise so that they get that benefit, and we must act on that. I can't tell you how often it is that I'll come to a premises, we'll look through the policy, it's put together in such a way that it's difficult to understand, and after extrapolating on that, we walk away with better cover, 20% less premium, and everything making sense again, where the client just feels that they are so afraid to touch this thing because they don't want to scratch where it's not itching, but they don't get the benefit of having somebody who they know and believe is on their side. Keeping abreast of new advancements in the product space, as well as the processes to ensure that clients receive optimal coverage and the benefit from the risk mitigation strategies. So us knowing how to help them reduce their risks ultimately benefits them, the insurer, and ourselves. And we bridge the gap as brokers between insurers, businesses, and people, because we enhance cover by giving more thorough, tailored solutions rather than one-size-fits-all policies. And don't get me wrong, many people fit into one-size-fits-all. Sometimes it's the best version of a policy that's available to them, and that's happened in the past, where we sit down and say, well, that's a fantastic piece of work that was done for you, and you should stay there because we can't better it. And in fact, I love it when that happens because it benefits all of us over the long term. When we look at this portion here, how can we look for opportunities to contribute? There's plenty. I'm sure we all know and have met the individuals who are very, very willing to share, but the more of us that do it, the better. We can help preserve institutional memory through active mentorship. So looking at and helping people. Teach and share your passion as soon as you can, and with people or with anyone who will listen, so that you can help grow the industries. We can help ennoble the industry. A small coffee with a young, aspiring professional can go a very, very long way. And I speak from experience. I've got a couple of gray hairs, but it wasn't too long ago where a kind word and a quick chat with a bit of information made a huge difference. We've lost a lot of young people through this industry very, very early. And we know about the problems that we're dealing with regards to high attrition rates, many people leaving the industry permanently. And then we've also got a very, very steep incline coming with a retirement wave on the precipice of what's happening. The trouble is, how do we preserve that knowledge? How do we preserve that ethos, that culture? We need to try and be involved and contribute where we can. There's plenty of places. I mean, there's the FIA. There are chapters across the country. There's the IISA. There's the SAIA. There's the Insurance Institute of Gauteng. There are the plenty of local bodies that we can get involved with. There's FISA, there's you name it, but we can make a difference there. And look for opportunities to workshop, promote, and look at the insurance industry as a whole to see where you want to contribute. It's massive. I mean, between the African Insurance Exchange, Insurance Apprentice, Roots and Wings, and InsureTalk, you'd have your plate full for most of the year. When we look at doing a bit more than what's required, it's difficult to call people on this, but if we are able to do a bit more than we've required, we probably will achieve much more than what we've ever imagined we could. By virtue of our people, helping our people, in particular, people that arrived in insurance by mistake, by accident, by fluke. We want to attract the best talent to this industry and have them stay here and contribute, rather than have it be a begrudging choice of an occupation as well. And help them and show them value before they decide to leave. Look, not everybody wants to work in this industry. Not everybody's cut out to. But let's make sure that we catch as many fish as that falls in our net, so that we preserve that and keep this culture, keep it moving forward, instead of just losing it to the wind we move out and retire on our sites as we get older. Taking care of our clients. I laughed. I've never met somebody who's lost a client because they've seen them too much. The more you do for your clients, the more they'll value you and the more they will esteem our institutions and industry. You can't see a client too much unless we're talking about multiple times a week, perhaps. But offer them the value and the outstretched arm so that if they need you, they can find you. And then the legacy portion that I've spoken about, impart to the next generation so that our spirit and skill can positively contribute for generations to come. Some mottos that we live by in our business, and I implore you, especially our smaller entrepreneurs that can do this with a lot more ease, look at these type of things and ingrain them into your people. For us, it's about more than insurance. Our relationships are partnerships with our clients where we help them succeed. We try to do a little bit of good wherever we go or with whatever it is that we do, irrespective of how intense the claim is or how difficult the circumstance is or how challenging it is to get the tow truck driver to understand what you're saying at 12 o'clock in the evening because your client is stuck on the side of the highway. Sell it like you sell it to your grandparents, with due care and with the purpose of really taking care of them. And finally, all of our business decisions move through this specific saying that is, if it's good for the client, it's good for us. In closing, insurance is not just about protecting against loss. It's about enabling businesses and individuals to thrive. It's about taking risks, measuring the risks, guiding them through the risks, and helping clients grow confidently with financial continuity without having to worry about if this, then that. Rather, if this, then I've already planned for that. The industry has to work together to raise one another's standards and enhance understanding to deliver value better than just and beyond just paying for claims. By that I mean, we've seen this as a beautiful uptake of the last bit where the shared value system of how can the insurer integrate with society? How can the insurer contribute positively to society? Those kind of thought processes on a smaller as well as larger level will make all the difference over time. And in closing, I have a question for you. When insurance is done right, it empowers businesses and communities, not just compensates them for losses. I'd like for you to ask yourself, how do you as an industry professional ensure that we leave it better than we found it? If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. My details are here. You can also scan the QR code to get a hold of us. I look forward to any interactions. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. We're quite involved and love making friends in the industry. We don't see collaboration and enhancing of one another's values and skill sets as a threat to business. If anything, it's a massive positive stamp on the future that we can contribute to this country and its institutions. Looking forward to hearing from you, everyone. Have a brilliant day.
Darius, that was an excellent insert, and it's so nice to see a young face at InsureTalk, because we often, we all know that there's this, I don't know, this myth about the average age of the industry being 120 or something. So welcome. We hope to see you back here. And that gives me a nice intro into our last speaker of the day, Cara Jean Peterson. And the topic that she's going to talk to us today is enabling youth to thrive through corporate partnership and digitized funding solutions. She's the CEO of the Phoenix Trust. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of who she is, she was appointed as CEO of the Phoenix Trust at the tender age of 32 years, which is a great achievement. As a woman of color, to lead this organization, she's dedicated to making tertiary education accessible to South African students. She's got a B.Psych degree from the University of the Western Cape, and she's a trained psychological counselor registered with the HPCSA. She's got 15 years experience in youth development, and many of us around this table are parents. So I think this is going to be a fascinating story to hear and what they're busy with. And between Simon and myself, we have 4. Fortunately, they are starting to grow up and they're not so dependent on us yet. But I just remember how stressful those times were, trying to figure out what's going to happen next. CARA continues to transform lives by connecting students with the resources and support needed to thrive in the world beyond academics and contribute positively towards national prosperity. Her leadership, grounded in empathy, precision, and a strong sense to pay it forward, inspires others to create meaningful change in their communities. I love that. We're excited to hear all about that, Cara.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, we're in the last stretch, so I'm going to try and bring as much energy as I can, I think, before everyone dips for lunch. Like Chriselle said, my name is Cara Jean Peterson and really excited to be here with everyone. I am going to quickly share my screen with you. I've shared a presentation. This. Okay, hopefully everyone can see it. Let me just put it on slideshow mode. Great. May tech be in my favor today. Yes, wonderful. Okay, so what I really wanted to dive in is, yes, I'm excited to tell you a bit more about Phoenix. And I must say, Darius's talk really, I think, lined it up, especially when he was speaking about our need to pay it forward, our need to make time for the new emerging young professionals to retain institutional knowledge. And so that just really spoke to my heart, and I'm really excited, I think, to dive more into that. But before I get into Phoenix as the organization, I am way more excited to actually tell you about some of our students. So I'm going to open up with the story of 3 students that have really touched my heart over the last few years. I've been with Phoenix for 7, going on 8 years now. So almost since inception, because we were launched in 2017. And these are students that really just stood out. And as I share their story with you, you'll know exactly why. So I'd like to introduce you, number 1, to Penyo. So Penyo, he had a 9-year-long education journey. So he was doing his degree with Wits University in BCom, and a 3-year degree took him 9 years to complete and graduate because, number 1, he openly discusses that he struggled with his mental health, and it was quite a journey for him to persevere and stay in education. But there were also multiple years that he was financially excluded because he couldn't afford his education. But what happened is Penyo then found Phoenix, and I will tell you a bit more about exactly how it worked, but he raised awareness around historical debt, around student debt, and how education, while it might be a right, it's not necessarily a reality for most of our young people. He then crowdfunded on our platform, raising over 50,000 Rand amongst his community and everyday people that wanted to support him. And as you can see on the right-hand side, he went from raising awareness and raising funds to raising his degree. He was able to graduate debt-free. But not just did he crowdfund successfully, but he crowdfunded an extra almost 10,000 Rand, which he then donated to another student doing accounting at Wits University. So he immediately became not just a donor, not just a recipient, but also a donor. And then I want to introduce you to Boitumelo. So Boitumelo also, she was doing her advanced diploma in accounting with IISA, and she had completed, when we met her, she was already graduated, but she had historical debt, so she couldn't get her degree, and then she wasn't able to do her internship. She wasn't able to do her practical hours, so she was actually sitting at home unemployed, helping her mom with a local tuck shop just to help bring in some finances into the family's household. And so through our partner, so Standard Bank, again, a bit above our history. Standard Bank is actually our founder. We are a registered public benefit organization, but Standard Bank is our founder and currently main operation sponsor. They launched with us payroll giving within their business in 2022. And through contributions, monthly contributions from their staff, they were able to fully fund her. So that was also, she also had quite a high bill of historical debt that she needed to cover. But when I touched base with her this week, not only has she graduated with degree in hand, completed her internship in finance, but she's now also doing her second qualification, CTA2, that's the wording. I was trying to gather myself. She's also graduating with a CTA1 now in June. Very excited. She promises to send pictures, and she's doing her some more of her practical hours at the moment. So really advanced, and it was all thanks to a community that backed her. And then last, but definitely not least, I want to introduce you to Ntombi. She was the very first student that I met, and her story is absolutely beautiful. I hope you enjoy.
I remember telling myself that the when and the how does not matter, just the will. My name is Ntombigaise Pengu. I'm doing my master's in chemical engineering at Wits. Raised by a single parent, my mom, since my dad passed away when I was 5 years old. My mom worked as a domestic worker to support my 5 siblings and I. This is my mom raising me. My mom understood the value of education. She preached education. When you decide to study further, you have to have enough money to pay for your fees. You have to have enough money for resident if you stay far. If you don't stay far, you have to have money for transport. In 2017, June, I got accepted to study Masters in Chemical Engineering at Wits, and I had no funding and no bursary. When I registered with Phoenix, which is a crowdfunding platform, I did not believe that it would work because I needed to motivate why I needed funding. I was scared that people will feel sorry for me, and I did not want that, since I am a person who does not want their circumstance defined who they are. And then after it had been approved, after like 2 days, my fees were fully paid. I was shocked. I believe in a world where each child has access to quality education. If more communities start supporting students, we can increase accessibility for everyone. This is why I started a nonprofit company called the Mentees Arc, which exists to increase the number of public school students who qualify to study in high institutions.
This was filmed, Ntombi's story was filmed back in 2018 when I met her. And since then, I want to tell you where she is at now. So let me quickly go back to the presentation. There we go. Sorry, you know when technology is just giving you a hard time. There we go. Slideshow again. So this is where Ntombi is now. We are in 2025. She's not only graduated with her master's in chemical engineering, she's considering her PhD in chemical engineering. She was also funded by one of our corporates all through her degree. They sponsored her almost 100,000 Rand over the years. She not only was able to graduate, she didn't start off as an A student. That's also why she didn't get a bursary, why she didn't qualify for other financial support, despite her circumstances, is because she just didn't have the grades. And when she was doing chemical engineering, it was her second degree, not her first degree, because she had done a bridging year first, and so that disqualified her from NSFAS immediately. But since then, not only has she launched her own nonprofit called the Mentees Arc, where she actually tutors students in maths and English and other sciences so that they are eligible for tertiary education. It's based in Soweto. She's already, you'll see on the top right-hand side, she's already started seeing her first round of graduates from those that she tutored. She's had a beautiful baby girl who won a Nickelodeon award for being a TikTok sensation, because sure, why not? but also she's started her own business in both childhood and ECD literacy, but also in adult literacy. And she's already published 3 books on literacy. And it just shows you there's a new generation that's emerging where it's not just about resilience, but about creativity and innovation. And this is what our donors had the foresight in terms of who they wanted to invest in. Now, why these stories? Why am I telling you about Penyo and Boitumelo and Ntombi? What is it that they have in common? And the 3 things that they have in common is, 1, they were unseen because they weren't considered initially cream of the crop. They weren't the top A students. They didn't tick all of the corporate boxes or all of the government boxes. They weren't acknowledged, right? And then what else? That resulted in them being unfunded. So not only were they struggling with current debt, but also historical debt. And now all of a sudden they are locked out of tertiary education, which everyone is saying, if you don't have a tertiary qualification, you're going to struggle to get employment, especially knowing what the youth unemployment rates are at the moment. But the third thing that really defined them and changed the game is that they were absolutely unrelenting in their belief that access to education should not be dependent on wealth. And they were willing to explore all options beyond the norm, beyond the easy, on how are they going to fund their education, how are they going to get employment, and how are they going to start feeding back into society. And that was how they came across Phoenix. And now I can unpack a bit more about our origin story. So we were launched in 2017. We were a response to the Fees Must Fall movement. I was actually working at the University of the Western Cape at the time, and a lot of our peer educators were a part of the protests. And I remember there's something that one of the peer educators said to me, I will never, ever forget, because part of me was conflicted between whether I supported the movement or not. Didn't support the methods, but definitely understood the cause and the heart behind it. Her name was Linda. And she said to me, she said, you know what, Cara, I'm not protesting for myself. I'm doing it for your baby sister, because this problem is going nowhere. And by the time, and she knew that my baby sister was in primary school at the time, and she knew that one day my sister, because I come from a household of 4 kids, single parent, my mom was a part of a financially and emotionally abusive relationship with my stepfather. So sometimes he felt like paying the bills and sometimes he didn't, but education was never part of the bill that was to be paid. And we knew that with my sister going to school, who was going to cover that bill? How are we going to make that affordable? And she knew that was coming, and she knew my story because I also had to find a bursary. And she said, I'm not doing it for myself, I'm doing it for your sister. And that for me resonated, which is why I became so passionate to move from working at a university and doing some time working for government and really moving into this space. And it was just about how do we as a community respond and be a part of the solution. And I think it's something that Darius also mentioned, this is something that impacts all of us. How do we contribute? How do we pay it forward? How do we contribute to a national prosperity and a future that we've all envisioned? And Phoenix for us, not the bird, but if you see the breakdown of the name, it's fee as in student fees and niks, which is the Afrikaans word for nothing. And it was actually, the name was designed by students for students. And the target and the vision is really about how do we as a community come together and make sure that we are connecting those who have and are wanting to invest in investment-worthy and inspiring students and make sure that they can graduate as debt-free as possible and really start feeding back into society. And since then, and how we really did it is we initially launched as a crowdfunding platform. So we're very much tech-based. We have national reach. We are with all 26 public South African universities and supporting students. But how do we enable students to fundraise for their studies, to put their own skin in the game, to apply their entrepreneurial mindset and position themselves as investment worthy and help legitimize those fundraising efforts where we vet all the documentation, donations are paid directly to universities, and really build trust. We spoke about trust being such an important currency, and how do we help students rebuild trust within the community and make sure that they can stand behind them around the need for access to education. And then over the years, we further expanded into skills development bursaries and corporate funding. And I'll dive a little bit more into that. But I think the part that I was most passionate about and continue to be most passionate about is the holistic support. For students, it's not just about covering their tuition or covering their accommodation bills. It's about how do you refine them as a person? How do you develop them holistically? And so it was really important that we created this baseline of wraparound support for our students where it was sponsored, every student has access to this, and we're refining them, their character and themselves as a person, making them more employable and making sure that they contribute to society in the most positive way. And so we focused really on personal mastery, work skills readiness, and financial literacy. So since our launch, we have raised over 227 million Rand. Our communities have really just blown us away, and we've impacted almost 4,500 young lives into accessing their education and contributing back towards their community. One thing I'll mention, I'm going to do my best to leave time for Q&A, but if I don't, you'll see my contact details popping up on every now and then slide, so please do reach out to me directly if you have any questions. Okay, so I think also I'm a visual person, so maybe just to visually deconstruct how our public benefit organization works. So on the one hand, we have our crowdfunding technology, which you'll see on our website, where students create this fundraising profile. We have a team that moderates it, verifies it, makes sure that it's legitimate, and they're then able to take their own story out into their communities like Penyo and fundraise for their studies. We then also have bursary administration, because a lot of our corporate donors, they have skills development funding, SED funding, CSI funding, and they have certain triple BE and certain impact goals and metrics that they're wanting to achieve. And we also just have different individuals that are wanting to make a donation, whether it's through payroll giving or whether it's a once-off donation directly through the platform. They're just wanting to make a difference, and they want to know how do they do that. And so we've created those really two giving channels where we can connect those who have with those that they're really wanting to support and care about. And what's great about this and what makes us unique and uniquely positioned in a time where we are still in an education funding crisis in this country is that we're the only PBO in South Africa that specializes in both. There'll either be an organization like Back a Buddy or Thunder Fund that only does crowdfunding, or you'll get other organizations that only do skills development bursaries, but we do both because students move in between the two. Not every student is going to qualify for a bursary, but then they can crowdfund for it. And some students might need to start crowdfunding, and then from there they get matched to a corporate donor. Or some students might get a partial bursary with a corporate donor, but there's a bit of a shortfall, and then they can fundraise for that balance. And so it really creates agility within this ecosystem. And like I mentioned before, underpinned by all of it is to make sure that every student that comes into the Phoenix community, that we support them with personal mastery, award-winning contextualized financial literacy, and work skills readiness. So by the time they leave their education journey, they're actually ready for that next step in society. At the bottom, just very quickly, in terms of our student criteria and who it is that we're supporting, it's students who are registered with all 26 public universities. They can be studying part-time, full-time. They are South African citizens, permanent residents, refugee and asylum seekers with their valid permits, and they can have current debt or historical debt, and they come from a household income of 600K per annum or under, or if it's a student with a disability, it's 850K per annum or under. Okay. Now, the reason why we've been able to raise over 200 million Rand to date and impact almost 4,500 lives is because our structure is built on data. We are a data-informed organization. We believe that it's not about us assuming what our students need or assuming what works, but actually going and asking them. And so this is just some quick stats on our students. And you'll see over the last 7 years, we've had over 13,000 students get onto the platform to fundraise for their studies. Last year alone, we had over 2,600 students fundraising for their studies with an accumulative debt on the platform of 178 million Rand. We were able to raise about 28 million Rand last year, and that was with a small team really pushing to fundraise. So it's just a fraction of the need, but to those, 600, over 600 students, it meant the absolute world. And so while we're doing a lot in this space, we know that the need is so much greater and there's still so much more to be done. And then again, I think just coming back, I'm going to speed past these couple slides, but I think really we do have an Insights and Learning report that we publish once a year. So again, if you want access to this report, just pop me an email and I'll send it through. But there's this misconception, I think, amongst the public, but no, isn't education free? Doesn't government cover it? Doesn't NSFAS have it sorted out? No. There are so many limitations. The majority of the students fundraising on our platform are not eligible for NSFAS for various reasons, but also NSFAS doesn't include all degree types. If it's your second degree, because many students don't know that once you have NSFAS, you can't change your degrees. So they'll do a bridging course and then switch over to what they really wanted to study, and then they lose their bursary. So there's a lot of misinformation around who's eligible for government funding, but also we know government funding can only stretch so far. And after the budget speech, we also know there's not additional funding being made to support tertiary education students. And so it really calls on public-private partnership for us to be able to make sure that our young people are equipped and are educated and ready to feed into the next generation of professionals. And then I think one of the things that really just blew me away sitting with the data and speaking to our students is understanding that, the general, if I look at the average cost per student for them to be fully supported, tuition, accommodation, laptop, food vouchers, etc., to really have all the resources they need to focus on their academics, the average cost per student is about 200,000 Rand per student. But the average household income, combined family income of our students is 100,000 Rand per annum. That math does not match. It does not add up. And so it just shows, and what if a parent has multiple children that need to go to university? My mom had 4. It's not affordable at all without support and without partnership. And I think for me, one of the things that we really wanted to celebrate amongst the students that we support is that despite these financial challenges, 87%, because we do the survey and we do a report every year, from last year's statistics, 87% of them were still on track, despite them not having even close to the resources they needed. 87% of them were on track to graduating on time. And of the students that graduated with their degree in hand because they were able to get their historical debt cleared, they were 3 times more likely to secure formal employment as opposed to those who graduated but didn't have their degree because it was being withheld because of their historical debt. So it just shows you, just by getting them their degree and helping them fund their tuition, it already makes a difference in terms of securing employment. And never mind all the rest of the work we do to make sure that they will contribute well to any organization that they work for. Okay, so then in terms of what makes us unique, again, I'm going to skip quite fast through this, but happy to share the presentation for anyone that wants it. So I spoke about the fact that we are the first of its kind, but I think what's really important is this agility of being able to have 2 alternative funding solutions that students can move in between to really be able to secure their education. And then the multiplier effect. So I mentioned that Standard Bank is our main operations sponsor. So from 2020 to 2024, they donated 50 million Rand towards covering our operations. And with that, we were able to raise over 169 million Rand towards the education of students. So we were able to more than triple the investment. And for us, it's not just about tripling the investment of our donors, but also in partnerships and using that support to make sure that we were able to reach more corporate donors, support more individuals who wanted to make a donation and make a tangible difference. And then I think in terms of, the business corporate partnership side of things is we wanted to add value by understanding who it is that wants to make a difference, that wants to have a social impact in the space with the finance backing that they have, but also just as everyday individuals. So we built a little bit of a profile of our donors over the last few years. 30% of them are actually from the financial services sector. The majority of our donations are skills development spend with triple BE benefits. And so, but we have quite a diverse reach, working with mining companies, logistics, real estate. And so I think with you work with such a diverse clientele that it's not just about if you as an individual or you as your business want to make a difference in the sector and in such an important field in sponsoring the education of young people, but also your clients. What are their goals? What is their business strategy? And how can you connect them to partners that will take that strategy forward and really add value? This is also just some of the corporate partners that we've worked with. And again, I think just broadening the ecosystem, and why they keep coming back and why we've been able to diversify our partnerships is because impact matters to us. It's not just about doing it as a tick box exercise, but really making sure that we see long-term impact and aligning with SDGs, aligning with ESG compliance. And so for us, it's about that long-term partnerships and long-term impact. And then the ways in which you can get involved. So I spoke a lot about the crowdfunding side of it. So we have so many individuals, we have thousands of everyday people that are just making a donation out of their own and saying, you know what, I'm going to go on the Phoenix website, I'm going to read some of the student stories, whoever I connect with, I would like to make a contribution. And then they get a Section 18A tax certificate for that. That's usually not the reason why they make the donation. I think it's just an additional value add, but it's really just because of that emotional connection and wanting to pay it forward. And so we have a lot of individuals just making donations, but then we also have quite a large corporate component. And so this is just the different types of business spend. So whether it's CSI or CSR, they can get a Section 18A. If it's skills development, there's triple BE points that they can get. And like I mentioned with Standard Bank, we launched payroll giving with them. And so their staff are able to give and contribute towards something that's close to their heart. And then we just also have sponsorship in exchange for, brand enhancement and marketing benefits. This is, again, I think just some of the technical side of things. So the ones highlighted in blue, those are the main elements on the triple BE scorecard that we support. So skills development, supplier development, and socioeconomic development. And again, if you want to unpack this more, you're curious on how either yourself or your clients can benefit, please just reach out to me. And again, some testimonials from some of our donors, but for Standard Bank, it was really the payroll giving and the fact that they launched at the end of 2022. It's still currently rolling. We've had almost 500 donors onboarded from Standard Bank, everyday staff, and they've raised almost 600,000 Rand so far, and they've supported 24 students to clear out their debt and graduate. And that's just from monthly everyday contributions, and it's really added to, I think, staff value and alignment. And then Baker Hughes, this was one of the companies that we did bursary administration for. They really wanted to invest in building their own graduate talent pipeline, but they just didn't have the resources. And so we were able to do the administration of that rollout for them and really just take away the administration burden. And then FIS Global, so they need to do a report to society every year around transformation and impact and what they're doing in the sector. And so the work that they do with us, they're able to now feed into their reports and really just show what they're doing in this transformative space. And then with Jet Demolition, we were able to assist them to move from triple BE level 2 to level 1. And that's also been a really fruitful. So while they're changing lives, they're also changing their business. And so it's really a win-win situation for us. But with all of that and all good and well, what does it really come down to? And I think with the conversation, we're speaking about how do we enhance our businesses? How do we enhance ourselves? How do we enhance the experience with our clients? I think, again, coming back to such an important part of what Darius spoke about is giving back, about preserving sectors, about feeding in new talent, about being part of mentoring and grooming and really knowing that we back them. And so for me, it's about how do we should see, if you truly believe in the future of South Africa and you want to actively be a part of investing in that future, it should be our obligation to pay it forward. We should be responsible for making sure that stories like Ntombi and Boitumelo and Penyo are not the exception to the norm, but their stories are the norm, that it becomes a commonplace story, a story of passion, a story of purpose, and a story of community investment. And so I just really want to call upon everyone on this call. I hope that you feel inspired, because I know you all have your stories about how you were able to be groomed in your career path, and maybe people along the way that helped you be who you are now, or get educated and have the accolades that you have, but be that for someone else. And at Phoenix, we know that we're doing our part. And so my question is, how about you? Thank you so much. And I hope to connect with all of you soon. Please reach out to me. I'm great on WhatsApp. I'm okay on email, but here's both my details. So really hope to connect soon. And thank you again so much to the InsureTalk team for having me. Thank you, everyone.
And just like that, again, we've reached the end of this episode. And what an inspiring and happy, episode we had today. Wonderful talks from leading industry experts inside insurance, but also outside. So we thank all our speakers today. Then I wanted to remind you about the video. So Llewellyn's email address is in the chat. I know he's going to post it again. Please send us your videos. I don't know if there's a prize for it. I'll see if I can wangle the the producer's arms on the side, because it's always nice to win something. So yeah, please send your videos. And then something else I wanted to mention to you is we forget things. We get busy. I know some of you are die-hard InsureTalk fans, which is a weird thing to say to start with, but please go and register ahead of time. The slots are already for the rest of the year up on the InsureTalk website. You'll get your CPD certificates. It gets sent to you and it goes to the IISA. But go and register ahead of time, because you get reminded. Believe me, I always almost forget we've got InsureTalk coming up. So register, get your staff to join in. They can sit and work while they listen. It is such a wonderful opportunity to broaden your horizon and to hear about things that you normally wouldn't hear if you're just a personal lines claims clerk sitting at your desk. So please we encourage you to involve your staff in InsureTalk. And then finally, this being such a wonderful platform to learn from, to collaborate on, and to take ideas further, we invite sponsors to join InsureTalk for the rest of this year. We still have a few slots open. If you want to know how it works, how much it'll cost, what it means, how many speakers you can allocate to elevate your brand to a target audience of 4,000 or 5,000 people, email Llewellyn. And on that note, I thank you for joining us today, and I'll see you next month when we turn 5 years old.